Hey folks, welcome back into Horns 24/7's position group by position group breakdown for the Texas 2023 signing class today alongside Hudson Standish, the offensive line. Some more big humans coming into town for Kyle Flood, Jaden Chapman, Trevor Gosby, Peyton Kirkland, Connor Stroh, and Andre Kojo. Hudson, five signees in this class for the Longhorns. What do you make of the five guys coming in overall?
I think if you want to give an overarching storyline, it's that these are Kyle Flood's guys, right? He really caught fire at the end of the 2022 recruiting cycle. And entering the 23 cycle, he really kind of hand selected this group of guys that fit his big humans mold. And what I think is probably one of the more intriguing stats is, Tommy, 3 out of the 5 guys, Texas was their first offer. Jaden Chapman, Connor Stroh, and Andre Kojo all picked up Texas offers before anything else. And if you're a loose follower of recruiting, normally schools that are, G5 programs or Power 5 programs that have to take shots first will be the ones to offer first. Texas rarely is the first ever offer. But for 3 out of the 5 offensive line takes, it really was just Kyle Flood identifying his guys early on and then, going all gas, no brakes on their recruitments.
And we mentioned earlier his prototypical big humans, and he got him. The smallest, just 6'4", so that's not bad. And the 6'4" would be Jaden Chapman out of Harker Heights High School, really close to Austin. I think about 45-hour away ish. I'm still trying to figure out traffic here. Traffic ruins everything. But let's talk about Chapman here first for Harker Heights. An impressive senior season. Got to see him once in action. He was great in pass protection. 6'4", 300 pounds is what he's listed at. Hudson, talk about Chapman a little bit. Why is it that he's part of this class?
Yeah, first off, Tommy, Chapman, I think, is the best prospect of this offensive line group, and it's the one that Texas had to battle the most for. Jaden Chapman was wanted by Alabama. Jaden Chapman, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, there were a lot of schools really after this guy. I know LSU, he ended up taking an official visit to, and that was probably the runner-up. It's just one of those things where, again, the relationship with Kyle Flood, the fact that they pulled the trigger first on Jaden Chapman, I think is a major reason. Not only considering that Killeen and Harker Heights is so close to Austin. Chapman as a prospect is just phenomenal. He's explosive. He can do everything that you want in the run game as a finisher and in pass protection. I thought that during his high school career, he just continued to get better. This is somebody that, while he might not be the biggest human of the bunch, I mean, at 6'4", 6'4.5", 300 pounds, eventually after a couple of years of strength and conditioning, he's going to look no different than the rest of the Texas offensive line.
Certainly, and when you have that frame coming into college, it's definitely not too hard to end up that way. And another guy who's going to end up that way, the next guy we'll talk about, Trevor Gosby out of Melissa High School, 6'6", 280 pounds. I just can't believe the size of these guys. I mean, 6'6", 280, 6'4", 300 from Chapman, 6'5", 360 for Peyton Kirkland, 6'6 and a half, 345 for Connor Stroh, and 6'6", 345 for Andre Kojo. That's just unbelievable. But back to Gosby. What about his skill set stands out to you?
So when I first evaluated Trevor Gosby, I was with 24/7 Sports contributor Guy Frazier in Melissa, and he told me hey, check out this tackle, friends with his dad, and they're trying to get some looks. And at the time, Trevor Gosby, I think, was probably 6'5", 240 pounds, and even though his, I would say, demeanor and overall level of play in the run game wasn't there, he was fantastic in pass protection. Do some more digging into Gosby, and he's a stud basketball player that has ridiculous, leaping ability. And so it just kind of made sense as a project tackle. He was the last guy of this group that ended up being offered by Texas, a one-time TCU commit. But at the end of the day, it just made too much sense to pick Austin, and Gosby since has gained almost 50 pounds of good weight and is now, basically getting close to 290 before he even steps on campus at Texas. I know he helped Melissa to a first-round playoff berth in the Texas 5A basketball playoffs. Really talented prospect that I think could have the highest ceiling of this group.
Yeah, certainly a really good mix when you have the athleticism to play basketball and then you transition it to the gridiron for football as well. Definitely love that lateral movement. Next, we'll talk about the lone out of stater in this class, Peyton Kirkland from Dr. Phillips High School out in Orlando, 6'5, 360, like I mentioned. Hudson, Kyle Flood goes out of state for Kirkland. What made him want to cross state lines to get Kirkland's signature?
Well, Tommy, to be honest, Peyton Kirkland probably has the biggest shoulders of any prospect I've ever seen. When I saw him at, I think, the Elite Bash recruiting event, it genuinely was flooring how he made guys like Sadir Mitchell and Jaden Chapman kind of look small just because of his frame. Peyton Kirkland is a hoss, like plain and simple. He's one of the bigger dudes that I've seen. He has plenty of athleticism to boot, big wingspan, arm length checks out, and he's an early enrollee. So, Kyle Flood's already getting to work with him. I do think that it's going to be a longer timeline for him to make an impact, but these are the type of prospects that Kyle Flood loves taking. So it just made complete sense when it got close to decision time and there were multiple schools, Michigan State, Oklahoma, Miami, that were not exactly sure where they stood, for Texas to, throw their hat in the ring and end up grabbing them out of Dr. Phillips.
Got to see Kirkland with Mike Roach at the All-American Bowl in San Antonio, and he fits the bill that you're describing there. So going to be interesting to see how Kirkland develops. Another guy I know you've seen a lot of is Connor Stroh from Frisco Wakeland High School, the biggest in this class, 6'6.5", 345 pounds. Hudson, like I mentioned, you and Mike have seen him a lot. What stands out about Stroh?
I think Stroh actually has a much higher floor than people give him credit for. Every time that I watch Frisco Wakeland, whether it's in person or on tape, he's fantastic. I think that he's just an extremely solid football player that's going to have to work on his, foot quickness to match guys in isolation. But at the same time, Connor Stroh is going to be an interior offensive lineman, so he's not going to have to hang out in space with the, Will Andersons or, Dallas Turner types, right? He's going to be able to utilize his massive frame against, big body defensive tackles and try to move them in the run game. I really like Stroh. I think that just also off the field, he fits everything that Steve Sarkisian and Kyle Flood want in an offensive lineman. Really smart take. And that's one too, where if you look at his ranking, it might not exactly correlate with the level of schools that were after him. Like, A&M really wanted Connor Stroh, who is kind of an Aggie legacy. Arkansas was all over him. It's a really good get from Texas.
All right, and last but certainly not least, right down the street from Frisco, I think. I've only been to Dallas twice. Mansfield Timberview's Andre Kojo, interior offensive lineman, 6'6", 345 pounds. Hudson, he's the icing on the cake in our video. What does he add to this Texas class?
I think Andre Kojo legitimately has NFL-type ceiling, Tommy. One of the more interesting facts, and I've written this on the board about 1,000 times, but Andre Kojo enrolled at Texas at 16 years old. Enrolled at university at 16 is pretty wild. Adding on to the fact that I think he just only recently turned 17, this is somebody that is going to get redshirted, have maybe 1 or 2 years more development, and then is going to be in his fourth year, maybe stepping into a role on the Texas offensive line at 20 years old. So the fact that he's just going to get so much experience before the time he even turns 20, I think that NFL draft teams will love it. And he's built like a freak. He has a above 7-foot wingspan. He actually started moving a lot better during his senior year. Like, I do think that it gets lost on people just because he's a 2023 recruit. He has his best football ahead of him.
Well, learning that about Kojo just makes me feel not very smart. I wish I could have rolled in university at 16, but nonetheless, very, very impressive from Andre. To close out, Hudson, feels like the offensive line for the upcoming 2023 season is already set, or the guys who are in the mix for it are already set. So maybe a redshirt year for most of these guys, or maybe some limited action. But in the long run, who do you think out of this class has the biggest impact?
It's a great question, Tommy. And like you kind of prefaced, they're returning all 5 offensive line starters. And then you've got guys like DJ Campbell, Neto Amozolo and Big Cam Williams kind of threatening for playing time, even from the entrenched starters. So it's going to be tough regardless of, when they enroll, for guys to really compete this year. If I had to pick a name, it would just be Jaden Chapman, because I do think that he's the best prospect of the crew, even though I think that, it might be intriguing to see what Trevor Gosby looks like in 2 to 3 years when we're really having this conversation.
All right. Thanks for that insight, as always, Hudson. And that's going to wrap up today's video talking about the offensive line class for Texas in the 2023 cycle. I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Horns 24/7 YouTube channel. Be sure to like this video and subscribe for more content as we head into spring football camp and practice. I want to thank you so much once again. Make sure to go to the horns247.com website as well for some more updates as we head into spring practice as well. For Hudson Standish, I'm Tommy Yar saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.